The number was so small it felt like a prank, $80 each. Nora Lane stared at the printout until the ink seemed to thin under the office lights, as if even the toner was embarrassed. On the other side of the desk, the new vice president, Chase Whitman, wore a charcoal suit that looked leased with the building. He had an expensive haircut and a smile you'd need a license to carry. "It's what we can do this cycle," Chase said, folding his hands like prayer in a courtroom. "We're aligning compensation with market realities." "There will be opportunities later," Nora asked. The word came out dry, like paper shuffling. "How many laters fit into 14 years? Chase's smile brightened, the kind of brightness only polished things have. "We value your contribution, Nora, $80 worth," she said. The HR generalist, Summer 26, relentlessly cordial, paused her soft typing. "We do appreciate your service," she added, as if reading from a sticker. Through the glass wall, the Austin heat pressed its palm against the building. The air conditioner exhaled hard, a labored animal. Nora's eyes slid to the hallway monitor that displayed Aquavista Utilities, live operations map, the SCADA overview she had shepherded for more nights than she cared to count. Green nodes pulsed like a slow-firing constellation. One node flickered yellow, then settled. If you didn't know to watch for it, you wouldn't see it. Nora watched for it. Chase turned a page, pretending there was more generosity hiding deeper in the packet. "Let's not get lost in feelings," he said gently. "We're modernizing. We need agility. Legacy processes can't hold us back." "Legacy processes," Nora echoed, wearing the words like a paper gown. She demissed Little League games to restart failed PLCs. She slept in 4-hour blocks through heat waves to watch chlorine readings stabilize. Her father's Parkinson's meds came in bottles with stubborn caps. Last month, she'd pulled over on South Congress to open one because his hands had shaken too hard to twist. Chase leaned back. "This is the final decision." The door behind him made a tidy rectangle, an exit framed by motivational art. "Efficiency is integrity." The poster hung a touch crooked. She noticed the crooked things. She always had. "What you're asking," Nora said after a long, careful breath, "is for me to pretend the system will stay upright on a handshake and a poster." Chase steepled his fingers. "We're building for the future where you don't need the person who knows where the dead bolts are?" Nora asked. Summer's smile faltered. "We just need your signature here, MS." Plain. Nora didn't argue. She picked up the pen, signed the acknowledgement of her raise like a person initialing a rental car's damage waiver. Something dented, no time to litigate it. When she pushed the packet back, Chase reached for a handshake. She gave him the hand because courtesy isn't endorsed. Outside the HR suite, the bullpen was a mix of novelty mugs, succulents dying bravely, and the smell of coffee that had achieved the color of despair. A few heads lifted as Nora came through. Lena Cruz from QA blinked sorry eyes. No one said anything. Silence was the natural resource here. Nora's desk sat by the window, neat by habit, a small photo of her father taken the year his hands still obeyed. Beside the monitor, a neon post-it in her son's blocky handwriting, "Game Saturday, please be there." She felt the nail of that please, an honest spike through the palm. She unlocked her laptop and opened the handover checklist that she'd been tightening for months like a parachute she hoped no one would need. Role-based access still pending. MFA token ownership, tied to her ID at 3 critical points in the authentication chain. Shady raised it. She had the emails, the red-line PDFs, the noted revisit after summer upgrade replies. Summer upgrade was corporate for never. Her fingers moved clean and quick. She zipped the transition N. Lane folder and uploaded it to the shared drive, adding a subject line that could not be misunderstood. "Read before weekend peak, critical permissions and interlocks." She CC'd ops, safety, legal, then paused and added the CFO's office as insurance. The sent banner slid away, blue and indifferent. Lena drifted close, clutching a stack of test cases like a shield. "Is it true?" she murmured. "About the raise, it's true enough," Nora said. "I'm sorry," Lena glanced over her shoulder, voice dropping. "He keeps calling everything legacy. He thinks warning flags are negativity." "Red isn't negative," Nora said. "It's a brake light before the cliff." Chase's voice carried from the far aisle. "We're not being held hostage by old frameworks," he announced to no one in particular. "We're entering a new era," Nora powered down. The screen went black, reflecting her face back at her, a woman in her early 40s who had learned how to stand her ground without making a scene. Her phone buzzed. A text from her dad's nurse, he ate breakfast. A good mood. A second text from her ex, I can drive Eli Saturday if you're on call. She typed back, I'll be there. When she stood, the chair screeched against the tile, a thin, honest sound. She slid open the drawer and took out a palm-sized black hard drive labeled N. Lane Docs. It wasn't leverage. It was a diary, diagrams, incident analyses, the proofs that she had told the truth at the right time. If anyone asked later who had left whom exposed, the timestamps would answer. At the security desk, the guard's eyebrows climbed. You heading out early, MS? Lane, early enough, she said, and slid her badge across the counter. Guess I'll need that, he said, a little sheepish, as if he'd asked for a favor he didn't deserve. In the lobby, Texas heat reached through the glass and took her by the throat. Outside, a contractor watered a pair of cacti in ceramic pots, streams of silver catching sunlight. The city beyond was thirsty and loud and oblivious to who kept the pipes from coughing at 3 a.m. Behind her, a status monitor in the hallway pulsed its indifferent green. One dot flickered yellow, then fixed itself. It would hold today. Nora didn't look back. She had left a map, a warning, and her name on the truths. The rest would take care of itself, the way gravity takes care of an object once it learns it can fall. The first night Nora Lane ever saw the city breathe, she was 28 and sitting alone in a concrete bunker of an operations room, watching Austin's water system flicker across 6 monitors. The air smelled faintly of chlorine and burnt coffee. That was before Chase Whitman, before HR memos with bullet points and buzzwords. Back then, her mentor Frank Delgado had stood beside her, a paper cup in one hand, and said, "You hear that hum?" She'd listened. Fans, pipes, the low electronic heartbeat of the SCADA network. That, Frank said, tapping the monitor, is Austin's pulse. Every green dot's a neighborhood sleeping without knowing you're the one keeping them alive. So don't ever lie to the system. Water doesn't lie back, it sounded poetic then. Years later, it became scripture. By the time Nora left Aquavista, she had worked 14 years of rotating shifts, nights when lightning struck substations, weekends when valves froze, holidays when her son opened presents over FaceTime. The job had turned her into something both invisible and indispensable, like the pipes themselves. She remembered one storm in particular, a spring thunderclap that tore through the south grid and took down half the monitoring panels. She'd been in the control room, rain hammering the roof like 1,000 fists. Generator S not sinking, a junior tech yelled, voice cracking over the radio. Nora leaned over the console. Reboot sequence, manual override, station 2 now, static crackled. Ma'am, that'll dump pressure in East Travis, better low than none. Do it, she watched the numbers crawl across the screen, her pulse sinking with the flicker of pressure levels. When the backup line came alive again and the alarms quieted, she'd felt her chest ache the way it does after a sprint. Somewhere out there, a NICU baby kept breathing because she'd refused to panic. That night, Frank Delgado came by with 2 sandwiches from a vending machine. He dropped one on her desk and said, "You just kept a city from coughing up mud." "Nobody'll write your name in the paper for it," Nora had smiled, exhausted. "I didn't expect them to," he sat, the chair groaning under his weight. "Good. But promise me something, don't let them forget what the system costs. When they start saying things like legacy and efficiency, remember, those words are how accountants bury the word integrity." Years later, she watched him retire with a handshake and a cheap plaque. She'd given a small speech, but what she remembered most was what he whispered to her before leaving, "Keep the heartbeat steady, kid." Even if no one hears it, and she had. Until that $80 raise. 2 weeks after her exit meeting, Nora drove past Aquavista's downtown campus. The building looked the same, silver letters on glass, manicured hedges, the illusion of order. She parked across the street and sat there, window down, letting the warm Texas air creep in. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father's rehab nurse, "He's having trouble with the pills again. Wants to see you if you're free." She typed back, "Be there in 30. Before pulling out, she looked once more at the building. Through the tinted glass, she could almost imagine the younger engineers, Lena, Jordan, the interns with earbuds and coffee thermoses, still chasing green lights on the screen. She wondered if anyone had opened her transition folder. Probably not. People rarely open warnings when things seem fine. Her father's rehab center sat near the river. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic and oatmeal. He was by the window, trembling hands folded on his lap. "Hey, Nora the engineer," he said when she came in, voice full of the same teasing pride he'd had since she was little. "Saved any cities lately?" she smiled. "Retired early." Someone else's turn, he tried to open his pill bottle, fingers stuttering. She took it gently, twisted the cap, handed it back. "You shouldn't have to do that," he muttered. "You built all those systems and they couldn't build one that opens easy," Nora chuckled. "That's about right." But as she watched his hand tremble, a thought came sharp as broken glass: how much of herself she'd poured into keeping other people safe, while her own family had learned to live around her absence. "Dad," she said softly, "was it worth it, all those nights you spent working when we were kids?" He looked out at the water. "It paid for your degree, didn't it? But if I could have traded half the money for one more dinner at home, I would have done it." The words landed heavy. That night back home, Nora opened her laptop. She reread the line from her old handover notes: "Role-based permissions are required before dry season. Urgent." The timestamp blinked, proof that she'd done her part. But what if the system failed now? What if the city's heartbeat she'd kept alive for 14 years stumbled once, just once, and no one there knew how to restart it? The thought kept her awake long past midnight. She turned off the light, but the hum of that unseen machinery still filled her ears, steady, expectant, waiting for someone to listen. Nora woke before dawn, her apartment still dark except for the faint glow from the streetlights filtering through the blinds. The silence wasn't peace. It was the residue of years of night shifts that had rewired her sleep to wake at the hours when cities dreamed. She sat up and stared at the small stack of papers on her desk: her father's medical bills, her son's baseball schedule, and a check stub with the company logo still faintly embossed in the corner. $80. She brewed coffee and didn't drink it. The smell alone took her back to the control room. The hum of the servers, the rhythmic tick of valves opening miles away, her hands moving faster than her mind on nights when the city's pulse went arrhythmic. She could still hear the beeping alarms, the voice of a junior tech half panicking, the slow breath she'd taken before issuing the command that stopped a potential water shortage. And no one had ever known. No one outside the room anyway. Her phone buzzed with a text: "Lena, they already changed the login screen. Your name's gone from the admin list." Nora stared at the message. "Deleted like a file too large to store." She replied, "Tell them to back up the control tables week. Don't let Whitman skip it." "Lena," he said, "we're moving past manual redundancies." Nora sighed. "Past redundancies," she murmured. Straight into a wall. Later that morning, she stopped by her father's rehab center. He was dozing in a recliner near the window, sunlight catching the tremor in his hand. When he opened his eyes, he grinned. "You look tired, kid." "You working nights again?" "Not anymore," Nora said, pulling up a chair. "Good. That job took years off you. Every time I called, you were knee-deep in pipes and alarms." "It kept me steady." He studied her face. "No, it kept you invisible." Nora said nothing. The truth was harder to deflect from him than from anyone else. "Your mother used to say," he continued, voice rasping, "there are two kinds of workers in this world, the ones who get credit and the ones who keep the lights on. You were the second kind. But they'll forget you the second they can." "They already did," Nora said quietly. Her father's hand reached for hers, trembling but firm. "Then make them remember. Not for revenge. For the ones who come next." That night she went to her son Eli's baseball game. The field lights glared against the dark, the air heavy with the smell of dust and popcorn. She stood behind the fence, half hidden, watching him bat. He scanned the stands, looking for her. When their eyes met, she waved. His shoulders straightened. First pitch crack. The ball sailed over second base, clean. He smiled, proud, and looked again to be sure she'd seen. For a moment, Nora felt something unclench inside her. 14 years of missed games, birthday candles blown out without her. All for a job that could erase her name with one keystroke. She clapped until her palms stung. When Eli waved back, she promised herself out loud, no more missed Saturdays. Still, as the crowd cheered and the scoreboard lights blinked, Nora's mind betrayed her, wandering back to the blinking lights in the control room, the heartbeat she had left behind. She had walked away to save herself. But part of her feared she had walked away from something that might not survive without her. The city still slept, trusting an invisible hero who was no longer there. The morning after Eli's game, Nora parked outside Aquavista Utilities for what she promised herself would be the last time. The building gleamed under the Texas sun, glass panels catching the light like a mirror that refused to reflect her back. She could have mailed the resignation packet, but some things deserved a proper ending. Inside, the receptionist glanced up from her monitor. "Oh, hey, MS. Lane back for exit clearance," Nora nodded. "Just need to finalize the handover." She carried a small black backpack instead of her usual laptop case. Inside was the portable hard drive labeled Lane Docs, a worn mechanical pencil, and one last printed checklist. The receptionist directed her to HR, where Summer, the same young woman from her raise meeting, waited with the artificial calm of someone who had learned to smile through other people's endings. "Morning, Nora," Summer chirped. "Shouldn't take long. We just need your badge, your laptop, and your signature here." Nora placed the items neatly on the desk. "Has anyone reviewed my transition files yet?" Summer blinked. "Your transition files, the system notes I uploaded last week. Folders called Transition N." Lane, Summer scrolled through her email, frowning slightly. "I think I saw the notification, but that's operations, right? Chase is handling that." Nora's jaw tightened. "It's not just operations. It's the entire security framework. The MFA tokens are still tied to my credentials. They need to reassign before month end." Summer's tone stayed polite but detached. "I'll make sure someone looks at it." Nora almost laughed. Someone. The word was so shapeless it could mean nobody at all. She signed the last form, thanked Summer, and left the office before the weight in her chest turned to words she'd regret. Back in the control wing, she could feel the hum of the servers through the floor. The air smelled faintly metallic, ozone, coolant, and memory. At her old cubicle, the computer still sat exactly as she had left it, monitor glowing faintly, the sticky note with Eli's handwriting clinging to the bezel. "Game Saturday." She peeled it off carefully and slid it into her wallet. Across the room, Chase Whitman was giving a tour to a couple of board members, all smiles and jargon. "With our modernization initiative," he was saying, "we're cutting unnecessary redundancies and legacy systems to streamline." Nora's voice cut in, calm but firm. "Redundancies are what keep this system breathing when the city's asleep." Chase. He turned, surprised but smooth. "Nora, didn't expect to see you today, just finishing what you won't read," she said. "Make sure those tokens get reassigned before the dry season." Chase's smile didn't waver. "We're on it. The new automation suite will handle everything." "That suite still runs through my admin chain," Nora replied. "If you don't reset permissions, the system will lock you out the moment authentication expires." He laughed softly, the kind of laugh men used when they thought a woman was being dramatic. "We'll be fine, Nora. Enjoy your next chapter." She looked at him for a long moment. "I plan to." Then she turned, walked back to her desk, and opened the last file she would ever save in Aquavista's system, a meticulous document labeled Interlocks and Fail-Safes, Final Notes. Every valve, every station, every potential point of collapse. She uploaded it, pressed send, and watched the progress bar complete. When she powered down the machine, the screen went black, reflecting her face, calm, resolute, unflinching. She placed her hand on the desk once, a quiet goodbye to 14 years of invisible labor, then stood and walked out. As the elevator descended, she heard the faint vibration of the building's systems beneath her feet, the heartbeat she'd guarded for over a decade. She left them everything they needed. Whether they read it or not was no longer her problem. Outside, the Texas heat hit her like an open furnace. She slipped on her sunglasses, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "Sometimes you have to let it break before they notice what held it together." Then she walked toward the parking lot, the reflection of the glass tower shrinking behind her like a memory finally released. 3 weeks after Nora Lane left Aquavista Utilities, the building had changed, but only on the surface. Chase Whitman had new motivational posters printed in bold Helvetica and glossy corporate blue. Innovate. Streamline. Adapt. He replaced the old safety board with a glass screen that rotated slogans instead of statistics. The staff called it the prayer wheel. Chase loved meetings the way other people loved oxygen. He held them twice a day, morning and afternoon, pacing in front of the team with the energy of a motivational speaker who'd memorized too many TED Talks. We're entering a new phase, he said one Monday, clicking through slides of arrows and buzzwords. Legacy systems slow us down. Agility is our advantage. And I need everyone on board. The young hires nodded obediently, eyes on laptops, typing notes they'd never reread. The older engineers stayed still, their faces masks of polite endurance. Lena Cruz sat near the back, fiddling with her pen. When the meeting ended, she leaned toward her coworker, Jordan. He doesn't even know how the interlocks talk to the chlorine pumps, she whispered. Jordan kept his eyes on his screen. Keep your voice down, he muttered. He's looking for reasons to trim the old-school thinkers, Lena grimaced. She wasn't old school. She was 29, but she'd pulled nights under Nora's watch and knew what held the system together. That evening, as the building emptied, the first warning sign appeared. A junior tech called from the night shift desk. A login slow again. Takes 5 minutes to access the SCADA dashboard, Lena frowned. 5 minutes, that's not normal. Probably network traffic, the tech said, uncertain. Try again. If it hangs, log a ticket. It did hang 3 times. The ticket went into the queue, flagged non-critical. No one would see it before morning. By Wednesday, more whispers spread. A valve at the Quail Creek station took 40 minutes to respond to a remote open command. The chlorine alarm at Oak Hill triggered late, 9 minutes late, long enough to miss an actual spike. Operations chalked it up to sensor drift. When Lena brought the report to Chase, he waved it away. Every modernization has bumps, he said, sipping his cold brew like he'd earned it. You can't make progress if you keep worshiping the past. I'm not worshiping, Lena said carefully. I'm saying the interlocks are acting strange. Nora flagged them before she left. Chase's smile thinned. We've moved beyond Nora's way of doing things. Her way kept the city from flooding half the East Grid during the 2019 storm, Lena shot back before she could stop herself. His eyes cooled. You like your job, right? The message was clear. She nodded once, jaw tight. Yes, sir. That night Lena called Nora from her car in the parking garage. The line rang 4 times before connecting. Hey, Nora's voice was low, cautious. It's Lena. Sorry to bother you. The system's acting weird. Delays, alarms out of sync. Chase doesn't care. Nora's voice stayed calm, but Lena could hear the shift, the sharpness under the quiet. Check the admin chain. See if the MFA tokens were redistributed. They weren't, Lena said. Everything still routes through your old profile, Nora exhaled slowly. Then they've got a ghost in the machine. Tell them to fix it before the quarter turns. They won't listen, Lena said. He thinks it's just noise. Noise becomes static, Nora replied. And static drowns signals. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the hum of Lena's car engine echoing in the garage. Do I log it? Lena asked finally. Oh yes, Nora said. Log it in writing. That way, when it breaks, someone will see who warned them. Lena nodded, throat tight. You think it'll really break? Nora's tone was steady, resigned. It always does when arrogance replaces maintenance. When the call ended, Nora sat in her dark apartment, phone still in hand. She had tried to leave that place behind, but it followed her, the hum of machinery, the blinking lights of a system she had built too well to die quietly. Somewhere across town, a green dot on the Aquavista map flickered yellow for a full 5 seconds before turning back. No one noticed. But Nora did. Even miles away, she felt it like a skipped heartbeat in her chest. A week later, the first public complaint hit Aquavista's support inbox. A mother from South Austin wrote, "My tap water tastes metallic, please advise." The email was logged, flagged as non-urgent, and pushed into the backlog. Nobody followed up. By Friday, 3 more came in. Weak pressure, cloudy water, and one with a photo attachment of a bathtub full of brownish foam. The system auto-replied, "Please flush your home plumbing for 5 minutes." Chase Whitman didn't hear about any of it until Monday morning when an engineer named Jordan burst into the glass conference room. We've got lag in 3 satellite stations, Quail Creek, Oak Hill, and Round Rock. Commands are taking forever to process. Chase barely looked up from his tablet. Then process faster, Jordan stared, disbelieving. That's not how it works. The MFA tokens aren't authenticating. It's like they're waiting for credentials that don't exist anymore. Chase set his tablet down with a sigh. Jordan, you're young, ambitious. Don't get stuck in old workflows. This is probably network latency. It's running diagnostics. I already talked to it, Jordan said. They say everything's clean on their end. It's something in the control chain. The room went quiet. Lena, sitting at the far corner, folded her arms. Nora warned us about that chain, she said. Chase cut her off. We are not reopening that conversation. Maybe we should, Lena said. These delays are happening more often. The interlocks aren't firing right. If the chlorine sensors don't trip in time, enough, Chase snapped. You're catastrophizing. He stood, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Progress always looks messy from the middle. We'll ride it out, Lena bit her tongue. And if we do, Chase's smile hardened. Then you'll have a new boss who'll handle it differently. That night, the temperature in Austin broke 104 degrees. People ran faucets longer than usual. Pools filled, sprinklers spun, and the system groaned quietly under demand. Inside Aquavista's operations center, a young night tech messaged Lena over Slack. Hey, the chlorine alarm lagged again. 10 minutes this time. Should I file? Yes, she typed back. And copy me, he hesitated. Whitman said not to create panic. Panic isn't the problem, Lena wrote. Silence is. At 2:13 a.m., another alert appeared, valve response delay, Southridge Station. A yellow triangle blinked across the control map. It turned green after 40 seconds, but the log noted the error. Lena watched it on her monitor from home, remote access still open from when she'd helped train the new team. Her chest tightened. She opened her messages, hesitated, then found Nora's number. When Nora answered, her voice was rough from sleep. Lena, I know it's late, Lena whispered, but something's wrong. The system keeps pausing like it's waiting for you. Nora sat up in bed, the dark room illuminated by her laptop screen. Describe the delays, Lena read off the times, her voice trembling. Nora rubbed her temple. Those are the authentication chains. If they haven't reissued the MFA tokens, the system's still looking for my key. What do I do? Document everything, Nora said. Time, date, incident, and who ignored it. Keep copies outside the network. Nora, Lena hesitated. Are you sure it's not a coincidence? Nora's tone sharpened. Coincidences don't repeat on a timer. When the call ended, Nora sat still, listening to the hum of her refrigerator and the faint hiss of the city outside. Her pulse matched the rhythm she used to hear in the control room, the one she had kept steady for 14 years. Now that heartbeat was faltering and it was calling her name. At Aquavista, the main status monitor blinked once, yellow for half a second, then green again. Chase, walking past with his coffee, didn't even glance at it. But if he had, he might have noticed that the next line in the log read, Auth error, MFA token, lane NORA not found. And that was how the first missed beat went unheard. The morning it happened, Austin woke up thirsty. At 6:42 a.m., the first calls hit the Aquavista hotline, low water pressure, dry taps, chemical odor. By 7, the company's Twitter account was flooded with angry posts. Can't shower. Can't flush. Water smells like bleach. The city was roasting under a triple-digit heat wave, and now the pipes had gone silent. Inside the control room, chaos bloomed. Engineers rushed between consoles, the SCADA dashboard pulsing red like a flatlining heart. 3 satellite stations offline, Jordan shouted. We've lost remote control, Lena typed furiously. I can't authenticate. The system won't take my credentials. Chase Whitman stood at the center of it all, trying to project calm while sweat darkened the collar of his starched shirt. Okay, everyone breathes. This is a vendor glitch. It's not a vendor glitch, Lena snapped. The MFA chain is looking for Nora Lane's ID. You never reassigned the tokens, the room fell silent. A red light blinked on the console, MFA token invalid. System authorization denied. Chase's jaw flexed. Don't say that name. She doesn't work here anymore. Well, apparently the system didn't get that memo, Jordan muttered. Outside, reporters had already gathered at the gate. Helicopter blades thumped overhead, cameras zooming in through the glass. On the screens behind Chase, water pressure graphs plunged toward 0. Sir, a senior engineer said quietly, the hospitals are calling. They're running out of filtration pressure. Chase pinched the bridge of his nose. Fine. Temporary override the chlorine interlock. That'll push flow back into the grid, Lena froze. That's illegal and dangerous. You'd be pushing unverified water through the system. Chase turned to her, eyes hard. You want the front page to read Austin hospitals shut down or water restored under leadership? Choose. Lena's hands shook. If you do this, you'll poison people. Before anyone could move, the CFO, Margaret Chu, burst through the door. Her voice sliced through the panic. No one touches that interlock, she glared at Chase. You're done giving orders, Margaret, save it, she said coldly. You ignored a written warning and now the city's running dry. Find Nora Lane. And now, she's the only one who can bring this back. For the first time, Chase had no words. The heartbeat of the city had stopped, and the only person who could restart it was the woman he'd dismissed with an $80 raise. The war room smelled of burnt coffee and fear. 10 monitors glowed blood red, showing system failures across the Austin grid. Outside, news vans lined the street. A banner scrolled on every local channel, Austin Water Crisis, City ON Alert. Margaret Chu stood at the head of the table, her silver glasses sliding down her nose as she read through a printout marked confidential. Around her, the executives sat hollow-eyed, their suits wilted under fluorescent lights. Let's start with facts, she said, her voice steady as a blade. System access has been lost. 3 filtration stations are offline. The city's supply is failing. And the only person authorized to override the MFA chain was fired 3 weeks ago. Chase Whitman shifted in his seat, his earlier arrogance wilted. Margaret, this isn't the time to assign blame. Oh, it's exactly the time, she interrupted. You ignored multiple internal memos marked urgent. She tapped the paper. Here's one. Dated 3 months ago. Subject line, single point of failure in role-based permissions. Author Nora Lane, all eyes turned to Chase. His throat bobbed. That was a recommendation, not a directive. Margaret's voice dropped. A recommendation when the word urgent is underlined 3 times. She slammed the document down. You didn't just ignore it, you signed off on shelving it until next quarter. Now we have a city without drinking water and a $40 million contract hanging by a thread. The silence was absolute. Only the hum of the monitors filled the air. Finally, Jordan spoke, his voice quiet but cutting. She warned us, sir. We all heard her. Margaret turned to legal. Find Nora Lane. Offer her whatever she asks. Consulting contract, non-disclosure, golden handshake, I don't care. We need her back before noon. Chase lifted his head, desperate. She won't come back. Not after the way we treated her. Margaret's eyes hardened. Then you'd better hope she's a better person than you were a leader. She faced the rest of the team. This is no longer about saving faith. This is about saving a city. And if anyone here tries to spin this as growing pains, I'll personally walk them out of the building. No one argued. For the first time in years, the room wasn't run by ego or slogans. It was ruled by consequence. As Margaret left to coordinate the search, the monitors flickered again, more nodes turning from yellow to red. The system's heartbeat had gone silent, and every soul in that room knew it was calling for the engineer they had cast aside. By dawn, Margaret Chu's team had tracked Nora Lane down through her Manhattan consulting attorney. The city's water supply was now at half capacity, hospitals rationing, schools closed. Inside Aquavista's war room, Chase sat pale and silent while Margaret paced with a phone pressed to her ear. The voice on the other end, measured, calm, unyielding, belonged to Nora's attorney. My client is willing to assist, he said. However, there are 3 non-negotiable terms. Margaret nodded for him to continue, the room hanging on every word. 1, the attorney read, consulting fee of $1,250 an hour billed in 15-minute increments, with retainer wired in advance. 2, a full legal release absolving MS. Lane of any blame for the current failure. 3, a public correction to internal statements that disparaged her competence. He paused. Once these are met, she will restore access and supervise the handover. Chase's face flushed. You've got to be kidding me, that's extortion. Margaret turned slowly. No, Chase, she said, voice cold as winter steel. That's an invoice. You just never paid the first one. The attorney added one last line, quiet but sharp, and MS. Lane wants the role-based blueprint she submitted 2 years ago implemented as mandatory standard operating procedure. Chase slammed his fist on the table. She's holding the company hostage. Margaret didn't blink. Oh, she's saving it. You're the one who sank it. The glass doors opened then, and in walked Daniel Holt, the company's founder and CEO, back from an overseas trip. His white shirt was wrinkled, eyes red from the flight. He didn't ask for updates, he just said, "Read me her terms." When Margaret finished, Holt looked at the board of directors, then at Chase. "Sign them." Chase stood stunned. "Sir, sign them," Holt repeated. "And wire the retainer now. If she can get this system breathing again, she earns every cent." Silence swallowed the room. The contract pinged across the server, electronic signature blinking green. Margaret exhaled for the first time all morning. "Notify the city," she said. "Help is coming." Chase slumped in his chair, face drained. "You think she'll actually do it?" he muttered. Margaret stared at him, weary but certain. "Nora Lane does bluff. She builds bridges and burns only the rotten ones." Outside, the Texas sun rose over a thirsty city, and somewhere far away, Nora received the confirmation. Retainer received. Access window approved. The heartbeat of Austin had one last chance to return. At 9:47 a.m., a black sedan pulled up to Aquavista Utilities' front gate. The Texas sun was already cruel, baking the asphalt into waves of heat. Nora Lane stepped out wearing jeans, a pale blue button-up, and a gray vendor badge clipped to her pocket. No suit, no ceremony, just precision in motion. The security guard blinked, then read the update on his tablet. "You're cleared, MS. Lane." "Welcome back." "Not back," Nora said quietly. "Just passing through." Inside, employees lined the hallway pretending to check emails but stealing glances at her. Some looked relieved. Others ashamed. Lena Cruz waited near the operations wing, her face flushed from exhaustion. When their eyes met, Lena's voice cracked. "You actually came." "Had to," Nora said. "The city doesn't deserve their mess." The war room was silent when she entered. Monitors glowed red, data crawling like a patient's fading pulse. Margaret Chu and Daniel Holt stood to meet her. Chase stayed seated, head low. Holt spoke first. "MS. Lane, thank you for." "I didn't come for thanks," Nora interrupted. "Show me the logs." The head engineer slid a tablet toward her. Nora scanned the entries fast, her expression unreadable. "You disabled nothing?" she asked. "Almost," someone murmured. Her eyes snapped up. "Almost means lucky." She moved to the main console, unpacking her small black hard drive. Its label worn from years of use, read N. Lane Docs. She connected it, tapped a sequence of commands, and entered her MFA string from memory. The monitors blinked once, then twice. "Authentication accepted," said the automated voice. A hush fell over the room. Nora's fingers danced across the keyboard, swift, precise, like someone conducting a familiar symphony. "Rehydrating SCADA nodes, rerouting pressure control, restoring redundancy chain," she narrated quietly. Red turned to yellow. Yellow to green. On one screen, the map of Austin shimmered alive again, pumps breathing in rhythm, valves reopening. Someone exhaled audibly. "It's stabilizing," Jordan whispered. Nora didn't look up. "Oh, not yet. It's remembering how to breathe." When the final node turned green, she unplugged her drive and set it on the table beside Chase. "That's 14 years of warnings, work, and proof," she said. "And keep it safe. Or better yet, learn from it." Chase couldn't meet her eyes. "Nora, I don't," she said. "Just build something that doesn't depend on one forgotten engineer." Margaret approached her, voice low. "You saved a city today." Nora shook her head. "No, I gave it back its heartbeat. What they do with it now, that's on them." She turned to leave. Outside, through the glass, Austin's skyline shimmered green again, alive under the relentless Texas sun. A month after the Austin water crisis, Nora Lane didn't return to Aquavista. She didn't need to. She'd already built something better. Her consulting firm, Heartline Systems, operated out of a renovated red brick house near Lady Bird Lake. The sign on the door read, "Integrity. Infrastructure. No single points of failure." The team was small, just 3 people, but every one of them had scars from corporate neglect. Lena Cruz sat in the corner office, now an equal partner, poring over code for a water monitoring pilot in San Antonio. Beside her, a retired attorney named Tom Weaver, gray-haired, wry, and former counsel for a state utilities board, drafted contracts that actually protected engineers instead of muzzling them. Nora watched them from her desk, a quiet satisfaction tugging at her chest. The sound of their laughter carried across the open room, mixing with the hum of computers and the faint scent of roasted coffee. It was the opposite of Aquavista's sterile quiet, the sound of people who believed in what they were building. That afternoon, a brewery owner from Houston stopped by for a consultation. He was a broad-shouldered man with worry lines cut deep from years of near misses and budget cuts. "We want efficiency," he said. "Less oversight, more automation. You can help with that, right?" Nora met his gaze evenly. "Depends," she said. "Do you drink your own beer?" He blinked. "Of course, then you'll want to keep oversight," she replied. "Because if you're the only one who knows how the system fails, you're one broken wrist away from losing an entire batch." The man studied her, then sighed. "Fine. Do it your way." By evening, the retainer hit her company account, $50,000 up front. She stared at the confirmation email for a long moment before closing the laptop. It wasn't about the money, it was about being valued for the first time. That night, she drove to the baseball field where Eli practiced. He waved when he saw her, glove raised, grin wide. For once, her phone stayed in her bag. No alarms. No emergency calls. Just her son swinging at a curveball under the soft orange sky. Later, as they packed up, he asked, "Mom, what do you do now? You're not fixing pipes anymore, right?" Nora smiled. No. I make sure people don't break them in the first place." He thought about that, then nodded. "That sounds better." "It is," she said. And for the first time in years, she knew it was true. Late afternoon light spilled gold across the Colorado River as Nora Lane stood on the pedestrian bridge overlooking the water. Austin's skyline shimmered on the horizon, calm again. No alarms, no emergency alerts, no red blips pulsing on control maps. The city had its heartbeat back. She leaned on the steel rail, coffee in hand, watching the current slide beneath her like molten glass. The wind hummed through the trusses, low and steady, the same rhythm she'd once heard from the SCADA servers in the operations room. She used to think that hum belonged to the machines. Now she knew it belonged to people like her, the ones who worked quietly in the dark while the world slept. Her phone buzzed. A message from Margaret Chu. "City Council voted to adopt your redundancy standard statewide. They're naming it the Lane Protocol. Thank you for reminding us integrity still matters." Nora smiled faintly, typing back, "Good. Make sure they remember why it had to exist." Then she tucked the phone away. Footsteps approached behind her. It was Tom, her attorney-turned-colleague, carrying a folder. "Contract from Houston finalized," he said. "They're including your clause, mandatory integrity audits." She nodded. "We're not selling software, Tom. We're selling conscience," he chuckled. A rare commodity these days. When he left, Nora stayed. The sun dipped lower, turning the river copper. For the first time in years, she let herself think about everything she hadn't said. To Chase, to HR, to the people who thought $80 could measure 14 years of service. She wanted to scream then, to demand they see her worth. But silence had spoken louder. She took a long sip of coffee. It was still hot for once. A text came from Eli. "Got a hit today. 2 RBIs. You would have been proud." She smiled. "Always am." As the sky bruised into twilight, she whispered to the water, "You can't build anything lasting on shortcuts." Her father's words echoed in memory. Everything has a main beam. Lose it and the whole system leaks. She looked at the city one last time, its towers glittering, its people turning on taps without a thought, and felt no bitterness. Only peace. Integrity had cost her almost everything once. But it had given her back something greater. Freedom, purpose, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing the bridge still stood because she'd refused to let it crack. And with that, Nora Lane turned from the railing and walked toward the fading lights, steady, unhurried, unbreakable.